My name is Saketh, and I'll be talking about climate change. So climate change is an increasing environmental issue all over the world. It's an increase in global temperature of our daily activities, like burning fossil fuels like coal and oil. And this rise in temperature takes place when greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane trap heat and light from our surroundings and the sun. And climate change poses a fundamental threat to places, species, and people's livelihoods. And to adequately address the situation, we should prepare for the consequences such as the negative impact on our economy, the rise in death rates, and the severity of weather-related disasters. So therefore, I argue that climate change is a major threat that must be addressed. And the first claim that I'm going to use to support my argument is that climate change will increase the risk of storms, droughts, and floods. Communities are at risk from these intensified climate patterns. High temperatures lead to a raise in evaporation and more loss of moisture through plant leaves. And even in areas where precipitation is not supposed to increase, these increases in surface evaporation and loss of water from plants lead from rapid drying of soils. And as stated in a report, an article named Extreme Weather by National Climate Assessment, an example of recent drought occurred in 2011 when many locations in Texas and Oklahoma experienced more than 100 days over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Rates of water loss due in part to evaporation were double the long-term average. And after droughts itself, climate change also negatively affects sea levels. So as temperatures rise, ocean waters do get warm and they begin to expand. And on top of this, melting glaciers compound the problem by dumping even more fresh water into oceans. And rising seas threaten to inundate low-lying areas and islands. They erode shorelines and they damage property and ecosystems like mangroves and wetlands. And then in an article by the National Conservancy, it states that in US alone, half of its residents live within 50 miles of the coast. Sea level rise associated with climate change could displace tens of millions of people in low-lying areas. And knowing this, there's some inhabitants that live on small islands that are barely above sea level. And in fact, in May 2016, the residents of Isle de John Charles were given $48 million to move. My second claim is that climate change will negatively affect the economy. So with the severity of these natural disasters increasing, it takes a huge toll out of our economy. According to an article by The Balance, which is a website about our economy and our personal finance. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey cost $180 billion. In 2015, the drought cost California $2.7 billion. And in 2013, the most destructive tornado in U.S. history hit Oklahoma City, costing $2 billion in damages. And although true economic impact of climate change is hard to predict, we can say that some key economic factors or sectors like food, fishing, water, and energy utilities will feel long-term impacts of climate change. Warming seas encourage proliferation of non-native species that impact the fishing industries. Rising temperatures impact usage all over the world. And as the country experiences higher temperatures, the food prices will rise. And we can say this because soybean, and as an example, soybean and corn yield in the United States and are used commonly to feed cattle. And those crops, they feed meat sources, which will make beef, milk, and poultry prices rise. And as we move into an era in which climate change impacts are all around us, adapting to these changes quickly will be a key for all sectors of the global economy. My third and final claim is that climate change is a threat that increases death rates. Climate change affects the social and environmental detrimentals of health, with clean air, sufficient food and shelter, and safe drinking water. And according to the World Health Organization, the world has warmed by approximately 0.85 degrees Celsius, with each of the last 3 decades being successfully warmer than any of the preceding decades since 1850. Because of this, extremely elevated temperatures have been a threat to many. And having more than the regular amount of days with temperatures over 100 degrees, families with air conditioning or families that can't afford air conditioning will have severe consequences to health. And in the United States, it's stated by the National Resource and Defense Council, in the United States, hundreds of health-related deaths occur each year due to direct impacts and indirect effects of heat. And after heat itself, air pollution is a major cause of death resulting from climate change. A recent study from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory stated that the average model estimates predicted a global increase of 43,600 deaths per year from ozone layer and 215,000 deaths from fine particle matter due to climate change alone. The increased number of deaths mostly occurred in regions that are already highly populated and highly polluted. And as we reviewed, human health is greatly affected by ground level ozone and fine particulate matter. Climate change is expected to have a growing impact on many adults and children today and can affect their health in a very harmful way. And in conclusion, I state that we as responsible humans should put every effort possible to control such adverse climatic changes that increase death rates, negatively impact our economy, and increase the severity of these natural disasters. Thank you.